Welcome, everyone. Thank you for your patience as we had a little bit of technical difficulties. Evelyn, can we have a roll call, please?
Trustee Marcus? Here. Trustee Weekly?
Present.
Trustee McAvoy?
Present on Zoom.
Vice President Wells?
Here.
President Lawson?
Here. Thank you, everyone. We've got a full house in the room and we got a lot online, so thank you for your engagement here tonight. Si necesita traducción en español, por favor, llama al 978 9. You got it? Okay. 978-990-5137 y presione 837-741 el signo de número para la contraseña. The public is encouraged to speak to the board on issues of concern, whether or not the issue is on the agenda. To address the board, please complete a speaker's card available at the entrance to the room or available on a Google Doc attached to our agenda. And if you fill it out in person, you can bring it to Evelyn here at the front. If you wish to speak to the board on a subject listed on the agenda, you'll be called on at the time the item is being considered by the board. If the item is not on the agenda, you'll be called on during oral communication. Per Board Bylaw 9323, if there are up to 10 speaker cards, public comments are limited to 3 minutes per speaker. Should 11 to 20 people wish to address any topic, the governing board may elect to allot 2 minutes per speaker. Should more than 20 people wish to address any topic, the governing board may elect to allot 1 minute per speaker. And at this point this evening, we have 22 speakers cards, which means the board may elect to allow 1 minute per speaker. So I just want to make sure that public speakers are aware of that before they come up to the podium. Additional time will be given for English translation if the public comment is provided in Spanish. Trustee Elisa McAvoy is participating remotely using the streamlined teleconference procedures enacted by AB 2449. She has just cause to participate remotely because she has a family caregiving need, and she notified the district of her need to participate remotely at the earliest possible opportunity. So with that said, changes to the agenda, I actually would like to move 7.1 to after 7.5. And Joy will be here, but she's aware of that. If that's okay. Okay, any other changes? Okay, so we do need to do roll call votes tonight. So we need a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll move to approve the agenda.
I'll second it.
Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Marcus?
Aye.
Trustee Weekly?
Aye.
Trustee McAvoy?
Aye.
Vice President Wells?
Aye.
President Lawson?
Aye. So we do not have any items for item 5 oral communication. They're all for later items. So we can move on to consent.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you.
Seconded.
Thank you. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Marcus?
Aye.
Trustee Weekly?
Aye.
Trustee McAvoy?
Aye.
Vice President Wells?
Aye.
President Lawson?
Aye. Okay, thank you. That brings us to item 7.2, adoption of resolution number 7, reduction or elimination of certificated services for fiscal year 23-24. And I think that's what it should be 24-25, right? So I think that's what the public is.
This is correct.
Oh, it is? Okay. Okay. Got it. Go ahead.
All right. Well, good evening, everyone, and everyone that's here in the audience tonight. It's great that you're here. It's been a while. Prior to this, it was COVID. Now we're back after receiving wonderful COVID funds, and those COVID funds are starting to end. So we've had an enjoyable time with the money in serving the students of the Redwood City School District. And now we're at the point where we need to decide how we're going to move forward. And so this evening, what I'm going to do is present some information prior to anyone coming up and speaking to this item, and to also elicit further information from my colleagues who are up here with me during this time. So let's start, Anna, with the next slide. in here. I can't read my. No, it's fine. It's just that all my notes are on. That's okay. That's okay. Let's go ahead and start. Go on to the next one. So as you see this information here, you see that we were funded very heavily in the area of the pandemic recovery state and federal funded grants. We had reading intervention teachers, additional reading intervention teachers prior to this money came. And I'm sorry, prior to the time of these dollars, we did have some reading teachers at the school site, but not at the extent to what we have at this point in time. We have additional instructional assistants. Tutoring programs have become in existence. We did have some tutoring prior to COVID, but it was very limited. Summer school, we had more dollars for summer school with this money prior to the dollars coming in. We did have a summer school program, but it wasn't to the extent that we have been experiencing. We've had the adoption of instructional materials, and our teachers and staff who are in the audience do definitely understand that, because there has been new math materials that have been adopted for our primary grades. And then we also adopted Haggerty, especially in the primary grades for our reading instruction and phonics. And then we brought in newcomer teachers, other staff members and at the school sites, and materials. So this is a big piece of the pandemic recovery that still exists today and will continue to exist for a few more years. The extended day programs. The extended day programs are at each school site, and it's in some form or fashion. Some of the school sites have more resources available to them due to the number of unduplicated students. When I'm talking about unduplicated students, I'm talking about those students who would qualify for free and reduced lunch, those students who are ELs, those students who are homeless. So these dollars are in existence now, and they will continue for a few more years. Next slide. We also, with dollars from this grant, we purchase diagnostic tools, again, instructional materials, and we did curriculum adoptions. Next slide. A big piece of the dollars from the pandemic recovery and the federal grants was each school site has a mental health clinician, one. There are some of our priority school sites that have additional clinicians. That is Hoover, Garfield, and Taft. And I believe McKinley was also going to start, if I'm not mistaken. Roosevelt. It was Roosevelt. That's another priority site. And when I say priority site, that has to do with our unduplicated pupils. Those students who are non-English speakers are learning the language, they're multilingual. Those students, again, who could qualify for free and reduced lunch, and those students who are homeless. Next slide. This was a major piece of the money that we received for COVID testing, the personal protective equipment, and the facilities equipment needed during that COVID time. For those of you that are in the audience that were with us during the time when we came back from being at home with virtual instruction, there were different items put into place by the state of California, and then the San Mateo Office of Health Department put some other restrictions on school sites with the different types of PPE equipment that you needed to have at each school site, and also how the facility equipment at each school site was going to be cleaned after students left. So dollars were spent in that respect. This is a major topic that we have that has just come to us last year, Proposition 28. And let's get into that info. So this was passed on November 8th of 2022. So the voters did pass this, which provides additional funding for the arts, music education in public schools. When this first came to be about, we received dollars. And last year, when we received the dollars, there were some questions about the dollars and how they were going to be utilized. So there was the previous assistant superintendent contacted the State Department, and the State Department said, as long as your job description had some items on it regarding anything to do with STEAM and art, you could utilize the dollars in that fashion. And we made sure that that was in place. Receiving the dollars, we moved forward, and we moved forward in that direction. This year, the County Office of Education has stipulated a different format for us. And even though at that time, and we have in written format from that State Department official, things have changed in regard to the grant dollars and how they're spent. So you will see the district has received a little over $1 million, and this is divided. It's not divided into 12 schools. It's divided by the number of students that are at each school site. And so it's going to be manipulated each year. And then, Anna, do you want to show me this? Is the next slide have that piece on? So let's look at what we thought we were going to get in 23-24. We had a different number than this, but it was all changed. But now look what we're getting in 24-25. When you look at these dollars, depending at the school site that you are at, and I have a slide coming up that shows the average teacher salary, it's going to be very difficult to hire a 1.0. You have to make sure that when we're hiring our teachers and our staff, that you include not only the salary, but the benefits that come along with it. And here are listed what the school sites received for the 23-24. And that dollar amount that you see for 23-24 did change compared to what we originally received, which it fluctuated up and down depending at the school site you were at. And so you see for 24-25, the dollars that we're going to be given. Anna, would you like to?
Just to add, and that can change. So, and the reason it can change is because everything's funded at the state about whatever, it's based on the money we get from the state on Prop 98, which funded. So it's 1% of that. So if the state reduces that amount, what we get, this number will be reduced. So I just want to make sure that that's one of the things that happened just currently.
Do you want to tell the story that we're not even on the?
Yeah, so they had put out the projections on there came out just recently at the end of June, beginning of February, and now they're no longer there, which means there may be some changes at the state level of what that money will actually be for that allocation. So that's just some of the things, because it's all based on whatever is funded on that Proposition 98 for schools. So it can change up and down, and this year it already went down about, it was about 3 positions, so 3 teaching positions. That's what I can say. So we had to put that into a different fund to help supplant that, just so that you guys know. So that was something that happened just recently.
Next slide. So this is a slide here where we wanted to make sure we know our teachers definitely know this, because this is a certificated amount that at the entry level for our teachers, that we start at $64,041, and with plus 25 years, that's the top of the salary schedule. And when you're talking about benefits, when I say this is not the $64,041, actually turns out to be with the 10 years of experience with an average salary. That we're looking at a teacher's average salary. The 64 is the beginning, but we base this on the average. And right now the average salary, this average salary right here of the $94,762 does not include benefits. So if we were to go back to the previous slide, it's very difficult for a site level with the dollars that they are receiving to hire a 1 full-time equivalent staff member for this program. It has to be augmented with Measure U dollars, SIP dollars, PTA, PTO dollars. Can't use Title I dollars for it because that is not part of the requirements for Title I. Next slide. We can go from there. Okay, the process for planning. So we knew back when we received these dollars, and these dollars were received back in 2021, we knew at that time they were $1. And I know, Mr. Wakely, you were not on the board at the time, but I had told the board, I don't want the one-time dollars. And there's a reason for those one-time dollars is because they go away. There is a superintendent on the peninsula who many years ago, and it's happening again this year, there are trailer bills, and there are one-time dollars that came. That superintendent got the permission from his board not to accept them for that reason. So with that being said, we were very happy to receive the money. There are so many things that we could do with the dollars if we were funding this in this fashion, year in, year out. But everyone knew that it was one time. So as we started planning and working with our site administrators to look at dollars that they had at their school site, we, I will say, we met originally with site principals back in January to make them aware that this was moving forward. They were to go back and meet, and I know one of our schools had a little difficulty meeting with the site council. It didn't really materialize, but every other school did, to warn where we were going and what support we needed from school site councils, because they knew what dollars were going to be lessened over the next school year. So we also wanted our ELAC participants, those parents who participate in ELAC, for those students who are multilingual, there is an ELAC group that parents attend meetings to understand the rationale and the reasons for this moving in that direction. Now, in future slides, I'm going to show you what's funded at school sites. I did not put on those slides how you can augment those dollars because it's different at each school site. You can augment it with Measure U dollars, which are fantastic because some of the schools receive a hefty amount. You can augment it with PTO, PTA dollars. You can augment it with grant dollars, which we are utilizing right now at some of our school sites for some of our staff. But at this point in time, we're at a juncture where we need to look at the monies that we are going to receive and the monies that are no longer going to exist. Next slide. So, adjustment to the services. So Title I dollars do move forward at certain school sites, not all school sites. So the Title I dollars that we receive have restrictions and guidelines that one must follow. We just went through a federal monitoring review in January to view how we spent the dollars. Did we follow the requirements? And there were some suggestions that were made for us moving forward, starting in the next school year. Here is the amount of Prop 28 dollars that we've received. Measure U dollars is a hefty amount, and those dollars go directly to the school site. The district office does not have anything to do with those dollars except for to approve your plans. And then those plans go before an outside committee that looks to make sure that we're spending the money correctly. And that outside committee is made up of parents and community members. And this is all dependent on the number of students at your school site. The LCAP and the site concentration dollars, those are dollars that Ms. Herrera will oversee, and she is in the process of this point in time with the LCAP starting on Friday with our Spanish-speaking population who will have in-person meetings to go through the LCAP and to determine how these dollars should be spent next year. And when we're looking at LCAP, you also have to remember we're looking at the unduplicated students. That's what the dollars were meant for. And the dollar amounts are there. Next slide. All right, total site budget and funding sources. So what you have on this slide, you have the slide that indicates the schools that names at the bottom. And then you have it's kind of color coded for you. And I know it's kind of hard for you to see maybe better on that screen, the large screens, but it tells you the amount of dollars that, not the amount, but the types of dollars that schools receive and somewhat of where they are almost in reaching the amount of money. That is a total of Title I, if you're a Title I school that receives dollars, but Prop 28, Measure U, and LCAP. There are no other, their grants are not included in these dollars, in this amount here. The PTA, PTOs are not included in these dollars either. Now I'm going to go school by school. And we're looking, and when a school comes up and you see Title I, that's the school that has Title I dollars. So as you look at Adelante Selby Lane, you see that they are going to use their Prop 28 dollars for a 0.5 STEAM person. You see that they're also going to use Measure U dollars for a reading specialist. And they're going to use their LCAP dollars for a 0.25 music person. When you look at this, this was, number one, developed and thought of by the school site. I'm talking teachers and I'm talking classified staff. And then it went to the school site council. That was the very first email I got from a parent, was when this took place. So this is for the 24-25 year. This does not include their PTO dollars. And it does not include any type of grant funding that we're looking at this point in time either. Sure.
And when you guys look at the yellow, which is LCAP, so music is just a portion of it. There are other funding things that we put in LCAP for each of the sites that are not displayed on here, just so you know. Okay.
Clifford. Clifford just became a Title I year before last, if I'm not mistaken. And you see that STEAM, they want a full-time STEAM person. They, the reading specialists, they still need to work with their school site funding regarding that. And they have a PTO, and their site council need to go through this one more time. And you see music at this point in time, they have not elected right now, but that does not mean that they aren't going to do that. Correct, Anna? Garfield, Title I. STEAM, they'll have one full-time person. A reading specialist, there are two. I know there's a reason I know this is we have a grant out for Garfield at this point in time also regarding another reading or math coach. We will not know about that soft funding again from grant dollars until probably mid-May. And that music at this point in time, there is no music. Henry Ford does have its Title I dollars. They're having 0.75 STEAM, which I believe they have this year, isn't it? They're going to maintain that. They want 2 reading specialists, and they also would like to have a 0.25 music person at that site. Hoover has 1 STEAM person, a reading specialist. This one says 1, but they're in the hopper for another 2 if the grant comes through. And music, 1. Kennedy, a full-time STEAM person, 1. At this point in time, no reading specialist, and they want one music person. McKinley, a 0.5 STEAM. At this time, no reading specialist and one FTE music. North Star, 0.5 STEAM, no reading specialists, and 0.75 music. This does not include any PTO funding. I think it is too.
This one should be the opposite. Music is through Prop 28 and no STEAM.
Okay, thank you. Orion Alternative. So the Orion Alternative has a 0.5 STEAM. They had a 1.0 this year. A reading specialist, and they want a 0.25 music. Roosevelt, 0.5 STEAM. Here, the reading specialists for it's a 1.0 and a 0.6 site funded. They're still working on that piece, and a 0.25 music. Roy Cloud, 0.5 STEAM, a reading specialist, a full-time reading specialist, and a full-time music person. Taft, a 1.0 STEAM, a reading specialist at 1.0, and a music at 0.25. And we're also looking for another reading specialist through a grant for them. And Ms. Kelly will take this portion on.
Thank you. Good evening to the board and to the public. My name is Wendy Kelly. I'm Deputy Superintendent of Human Resources, and I am here tonight to talk to you about employee transition. And so you were privy to all of the board memos that laid out the position reductions, and that's a very legalese document. We do know there's a human spirit behind every person that's here. We've valued everybody and their contributions to the district. With my team, I have the task of, once the board takes action, managing how our employees will fare through this process. And so that requires the start of multiple and many conversations that will come to be. The good news behind this, believe it or not, there's a slight silver lining, is that for almost all individuals, there will be a place in our district. So the employee transition in itself will very likely work out for many people. And I say that because each year we have a certain number of vacancies, approximately 60 certificated teaching positions, a handful of management, and our classified currently is at 53 expected as of June. And that's with typical attrition, retirements, resignations. We are at the start of that process right now. For classified, it's an ongoing process all year long as people are hired into positions and leave us. And then for certificated, the typical hiring season starts about now and goes in through the summer. So that is the good news. But it is a difficult journey, as people are leaving their home site and possibly traveling to other sites. We started the conversations already with teachers through our work with our CTA. President Aaron Washburn is here in the audience tonight. And we will be continuing forth on March 21st with classified. That's a formal meeting with classified members in CSEA, Donna Solario, who's here tonight as well. And then I work with management. So all of those are very important conversations will be happening, but I feel very confident in knowing that the valued employees that we have will still remain with us as we progress forward, unless, of course, they choose to leave us for other personal reasons, they move or what have you. So that is good news. It's always hard to manage this in HR, right? I get the joy of bringing people in, and I'm saddened when things have to change. The magnitude of services will be different next year, but they still will remain. And so I'm pleased to know that we have a bright staff of admin team and site councils and the staff that go with it that will help make that journey great for kids. So thank you for that hard work. I am not going to give you a crash course in HR tonight because that would take days, but I do want to point out a couple of important pieces. So Anna, do you mind? Next slide. Please. The one prior. Sorry. Thank you. My screen looks different. So in the world of HR, and this is a very short crash course, we look at positions and employees as two different pathways. Okay, and I'm telling you this for tonight because tonight the board is considering these positions that were just listed in the resolution. And it looks like a half-time person here, a 0.25 there, and so forth. And we're managing this district-wide. And it is true, the positions that we had this year will be reduced, assuming approval for next school year. So that is, so I look at these like buckets essentially, and then people become attached to a bucket. So once the positions decrease, then we shift gears and look at employees. Okay, so the employees in our district, based on their credentials, their licenses, and all of the criteria needed to serve students in their roles, have an opportunity to transfer into other positions. That can happen right away with these meetings, or can happen over the period of time. People can also choose to not choose a position, and if they do so, they're placed on what's called a 39-month rehire list, and that's an ed code. But essentially, the gist of that is to say that should you come back to our district, you do have the same seniority rights and salary within a 39-month period. So those are the conversations we go over with people, because if there isn't a desirable position, then they need to make a choice at that time for themselves. But of course, once again, we're always about recruitment. We would love to have the people that we have trained, that we've worked side by side with, to continue forth in our district. The next slide, please. So with that, I wanted to bring some data at this moment in time. And in HR, the moments change frequently. We have 21 certificated displaced teachers, and I say that with an explanation. The PKS board resolution shows many more positions, but in the course of February, because we've been having these conversations for many months with administrators and internally, certainly, what principals do, because these are primarily at school sites and other district office staff, but the principals primarily are working with focusing on what the staffing lists will look like for 24-25. And in the RCTA contract, our union contract, there's a deadline of February 28th. So once those conversations happen, a staffing list is posted, then we know what the true vacancies are moving forward for 24-25, because everyone at the school site has been settled. Okay, they might choose they move grade levels or what have you. What principals decided to do in this time period was recognize that there were very valuable staff on their school site with their own site seniority, working in a union environment, the seniority is important, that could already be absorbed into known vacancies. And that's very typical that happens in February within the union contract, Article 11. And at the end of February, they give to me a list of all vacancies. So on February 29th this year, a leap year, we had 27 certificated positions open. When everyone was settled and the funnel of all the people, sort of shook out, it came down to 21 people that were still displaced and didn't yet have their home for next year. So our CTA president, Aaron Washburn, and myself met to work out how could we start communicating this. And we started advertising the certificated vacancies to our displaced teachers. And that term sounds so horrible, but it's a moment in time, and then they find their new home. And so we're almost completed with that list. We have about 6 to 7 more people to place. It's just communication and trying to get through our work week together. So I'm expecting that to happen, to be completed any day now. And then everyone will be settled. There are a couple of positions in which we have people that may not have a position due to their unique credential or licensure, but Once again, they can be put on the 39-month rehire list, and the moment a position comes up, we contact them, and they have the availability to return. So that's good news. The second item is our classified staff. So I will be speaking about classified reductions in the next board agenda item. But I did want to point out that we have 25 classified displaced staff and 53 classified positions. And within the CSEA union contract, it's a different type of transfer process, but we do have options for employees, so that feels good as well. We have one displaced certificated management employee after everyone transferred into open positions for management. And we have one management position available, so likely that person will move into that position. So that will be a closed item. And then for classified management, we have a handful of our mental health counselors that will be moving from 1.0 to 0.5. And so I'm scheduling that meeting for next week so that we can discuss options. And so at this moment, we have almost enough positions. But if somebody resigns or retires through the end of the year, then the displaced person will have the opportunity to take that position. And that's assuming no other resignations. So I did want to give you just an at a glance moment in time of what we're managing right now based on what the proposed reductions will be. I know that my realm doesn't affect program as much any longer. That would be Ana Herrera and others, but I'm definitely here to support the employees, as all of us are, in the transition so that continued services can still occur, maybe not at the magnitude that we've enjoyed over the last few years, which has been quite amazing. But we still strive to ensure that our students are served well. And I know our hardworking employees also feel the same. And that leads us to this last bullet point, supporting staff into the transition. It can be a little shocking to move from one site to another. So we want to make sure that happens as seamlessly as possible. There are some union benefits in the contract for moving and so forth that, of course, we will make sure people are supported and within their own role, their new roles, training and so forth. So that's already put in place. So that concludes the information that I was going to be presenting on certificated. Thank you.
All right, so now we will open it up for comments, questions, however you would like to do this.
So we have more presentations for 7.3 and 7.4 and whatnot. Is that right?
Mhm.
Okay. We have a lot of speaker cards that don't have an item agenda attached to it. So I don't know if we should just take them all now because they're all kind of related, or
Okay.
are we good with that? Okay.
Yeah.
Do we want to take those first and then have discussion, or?
Yeah. Sure. That sounds
Okay.
good. Yeah.
Now, question for the board. We have 23 speakers cards at this point. Do we want to limit to 1 minute or
A little bit longer, I would go 2 minutes.
2 minutes? Okay, Elisa, you're good with that? 2 minutes?
Did you?
Yes, okay. I'm gonna,
Yes.
in the order they were received, both online and in person. So if you are online and your name is called, please just raise your hand in the Zoom so that our tech department can give you permission to speak. If you're in the room and you're called, please make sure that the red light is on the microphone by pressing the little person icon button. Let's see. I'll pull up my list, refresh.
And
Oh.
Janet, one comment. Didn't we say that we were gonna take all in person before we took Zoom?
So
Or is
I
that-
talked to Lanny about that. That's not in our board policy.
Okay,
And I actually don't know because I think some of the ones that are filled out online might be in the room. They
Okay.
just filled out earlier in the week. If I butcher your name, please feel free to correct me. I'd love to learn and get it correct next time. So we're going to start with Esther Chan. Might be online. Yeah. Hi, Esther. Go ahead. You can unmute yourself.
Hi, everyone. I am a parent at Orion Alternative School in the parent co-op in the parent co-op, and I have a kindergarten and a second grader. I have to say, seeing the list of layoffs have really been a shock to see the amount of cuts across all the district across the district, and knowing that the reading level of the students are already low, and seeing that the reading specialist is also going to be the FT is going to be cut, I think it's very disheartening as a mother, as a parent. And really, I'm also on the PTO board at Orion. I know that we have worked really hard in our fundraising efforts to really help supplement the needs of our school and our students. And I'm really urging the district and the board of trustees to think of creative ways to help support the students better, to support the families better. I know Orion is not a Title I school, and I know there are many needs in other schools across the Redwood City district. And I and I really appreciate a lot of the presentations earlier on how the fundings came through to begin with. But I also hear what Dr. Baker mentioned, like you did not prefer these one-time payments because they will go away. But I really urge the district and the board of trustees on really coming up on creative plans to think of a long-term goal that is sustainable and that can continue to help our students and not have these positions that are absolutely necessary to be taken away. Thank you.
Thank you, Esther. Sorry, I have to keep switching back and forth between tabs. The next speaker is Tom Gerke. In person, okay, thank you. Awesome. So if you could turn the microphone on before you get started.
The icon.
The right button, one on the right.
Testing,
Perfect.
testing.
Yep.
All right. Since I thought I had 1 minute, but since I have two, my daughters are selling Girl Scout cookies. So market's saturated. We need all the help we can get. So I've told them to come outside. No, I'm just, no, but seriously, yeah. All right. As a parent in Redwood City, I am gravely concerned about the proposed cuts to music programs, as they are lifelines to many students. Certainly was for me. Learning musical instrument gave me the confidence that I could work hard and get better and better at something in a fulfilling way that no other subject could. Now I know what was actually happening in my brain at the time. Deliberate practice of the arts is scientifically proven to stimulate neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to change and grow. Now, voters overwhelmingly support the need for expanded arts education in California. Yet the proposed cuts clearly demonstrate poor planning of Prop 28 funds in at least 7 schools. This legislation was designed to expand arts and music education, not as a safety net for budget shortfalls. I understand the board faces difficult financial decisions. However, backtracking on arts education is a gut-wrenching solution with potentially long-term consequences. These programs are not luxuries. They are essential components of a well-rounded education. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Our next speaker is Hannah Ma. In person. Thank you.
Good evening, President Lawson, Dr. Baker, board members. My name is Hannah Ma. I'm the parent of a student at Orion Alternative, but I'm here to raise some questions about the overall proposal and not just related to Orion. First, I want to name that while this is a very cold proposal for the parent community to hear, I imagine it must be just as difficult for all of you. First, I'm curious, I was curious about whether the proposed cuts reflected staffing that were added after the influx of funding due to COVID, and Dr. Baker addressed that in his presentation. Second, I'm curious whether, I think it would be helpful for families to understand what alternatives were explored before you propose the staffing cuts. For example, could we consider more affordable vendors for school lunches or transportation? Or rather than providing technology across the board to all students, consider prioritizing unduplicated students. Third, I do have concerns around the distribution of cuts across the district. If I read the proposal correctly, Garfield and North Star both have roughly the same number of students. However, the proposed cuts from Garfield is 5.5 FTEs, while the proposed cuts for North Star is 2.7. And I was heartened to hear that displaced teachers may likely land a home in a new position, but the previous parent mentioned the term lifeline. And I do know that for some young people and children, certain teachers can be lifelines for them. It took time for them to build that trust and relationship with them and their families. So it would be a huge disruption for them to lose that person on campus. And lastly, I just want to urge the board and school leaders to think creatively about ways to generate revenue. For example, could we lease out classrooms or other facilities during weekends, school breaks, after school, or reach out to companies who recently experienced huge layoffs to see whether they could donate the laptops that they no longer need. Thank you for the opportunity to comment. I understand this is really difficult and I really appreciate your sharing this with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Anna Solorio.
I still speak on Article 8.
8 is board reports. But
Maybe she.
What do you want? Anna, what was it?
oh, resolution 8. Okay.
Okay, well, we'll put you on there.
Okay, thank
Okay,
you.
do you mind? Thank you.
So Jill DeBartok. Just looking through the list on Zoom. No, I don't see Jill. So that brings us to Lauren Abrahams.
Here in person.
Thank you.
I think the mic is on, right? Okay,
Mhm.
awesome. Good evening. My name is Lauren Abrams, almost got it. And I'm the mental health counselor at Taft Community School, a position which has been cut to 0.5. I'm speaking tonight because there have been equal cuts across 5 sites in mental health counselors, but the needs at these sites are not equal. Taft students are proud learners. Taft students are creative. Many are multilingual, and all are able to achieve any goal they set for themselves with appropriate support. At Taft, 94% of students are Hispanic, Latino, 98% are students of color, 89% are eligible to receive free and reduced lunch. Many of our students have experienced a really high level of trauma related to migration, having to translate for their parents at legal immigration appointments, having family members, parents who live in another country. Many of our students experience poverty, are tripled up in their homes, doubled up in their homes. Many of our students have experienced discrimination or their parents have. And students carry this unresolved trauma with them, like a heavy weight in their backpack every day at school. And they carry it in their stomachs, as we know as counselors, like a buzzing energy that's distracting them from focus, right? So the role of the district mental health counselor is to ensure that every student at Taft receives an appropriate and tiered level of support for their needs. So every single student at Taft receives SEL, and students with a higher level of trauma receive individual or group counseling, ensuring that all students can develop resilience and skills for achieving what they're capable of later in life. So at Taft, different than other schools, families rely on school-based counseling as essential healthcare. Families face barriers to access these services outside of school, right? Insurance barriers, transportation barriers, working 2 to 3 jobs, not being able to transport your child to therapy outside of school. Recently in our LCAP and CCSPP student voice committees that were just emailed in the past week, students directly highlighted the importance of having counselors at school. So because of the unique needs at Taft, I really encourage you to reconsider reducing the position to 0.5. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, Lauren. Our next speaker is Laura Lind. I'm just scrolling the list on Zoom. I don't see. Sorry, there's 157 names on Zoom to scroll through, so.
Laura, what?
Laura Lind. Yeah, no, I don't see Laura. Okay. Our get back to my document. After Laura is Megan O'Reilly Green.
She's here.
I think a lot of you know me. Hi, I'm Megan O'Reilly Green. Oh, do it, the red button.
Yeah,
fall.
you're on.
I'm the parent of 2 students at Orion Alternative, and 2 more come in the next couple years. I have a kindergartner that's going to start next year. So I brought them with me. I know budget cuts conversations are terrible and they're really hard. And I just wanted to express my appreciation for all of you guys, and my gratitude, because I know that this is super tough and you are absolutely doing your best with a difficult situation. And unfunded mandates, that's another one. I didn't mention that. That's super tough. But I was hoping to talk to the concerned parents on the call about a different issue, which is parcel taxes. And I wanted to share that we are unique in our district, that we do not have parcel taxes that are on par and can measure it with neighboring districts. I had just a couple facts to read for everybody. San Carlos levies $334 for an education budget of 10 million. Palo Alto is $820 per house for $29 million for education. Belmont, $292 per house for $9 million. San Mateo, again, is very similar, $324 for $10 million. Menlo Park, there's 4 different parcels that cover about $375 for $11.3 million. In Redwood City, we have $85 per house at $1.9 million. So I think that if all the parents on this call could go knock on 100 doors with me and we could get a $400 or $500 parcel tax, we can easily cover these budget gaps. And my kids I'm very happy. You guys have made me very happy. I think you should know that. You made me very happy this year and last year. My kids are doing great, but I'm concerned about the kids at Taft, Garfield, and we need to level the playing ground, the playground for all of those families out there. So I hope that when those parcel tax volunteer calls come out, we will get right on it and solve these issues, because this district is amazing. Thank you so much, and have a good night.
Thank you, Megan. Next, we have Marianne Nakla. Did I get it?
Good afternoon, board members. My name is Marianne. I'm a mental health liaison at Henry Ford, and I understand you have some really hard decisions to make tonight. Nonetheless, I'm here repping my Henry Ford blue, urging you to reconsider cutting the mental health liaison positions at Taft, Henry Ford, Orion, and Adelante Selby. The mental health liaisons throughout the district have worked so hard to build a relationship with so many students on our campus. We have become an integral part of our school communities, many of us providing SEL, individual and group supports to many students on our campuses. To take that away would not only be devastating to us, but it would also be devastating to the students and families we serve. There's so much work still left to be done in order to support our youth in the RCSD community, and I just want you to consider that. Thank you.
Thank you, Marianne. Okay, our next speaker is Lizbeth Estrada. I believe she will be speaking to us in Spanish, and we have Itzel on the line to provide translation. Hi, Lizbeth, go ahead. You should be able to unmute yourself. Lizbeth, there we go.
Okay. ¿Ya?
Yes, go ahead.
Ok. Muy buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Lisbeth Estrada. Soy una mamá de Hoover. Esta noche quiero expresar mi profundo agradecimiento a usted, señor Dr. Baker, por su enfoque en la equidad y dar a cada alumno en Hoover lo que se necesita para tener las mismas oportunidades. Gracias porque nos da a cada persona lo que se necesita de manera justa e imparcial, y nos ayuda a nuestra comunidad de Hoover a tener los mismos derechos, siempre incluyendo a nuestros niños de educación especial. Y gracias también por darle esa prioridad a nuestras escuelas que más necesitan la ayuda. La ayuda por su liderazgo sobresaliente de usted y por crear un ambiente donde todos los estudiantes pueden prosperar. Su dedicación, pasión y compromiso que tiene usted, doctor Baker, ha tenido un impacto positivo en nuestra comunidad escolar. Y como sabemos, nuestra comunidad de Hoover es grande, así es que estamos muy agradecidos con usted y que Dios me lo bendiga.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Hi, good evening. My name is Lisbeth Estrada. I am a Hoover mom. This evening, I want to express my deep appreciation to you, Dr. Baker, for all of your focus on the equity and to give every student in Hoover what it's needed to have the same opportunities. Thank you because you're giving every person what they need in a fair and impartial manner, and you're helping our community or the Hoover community to have the same rights all the time, including or students from special ed. And also, I want to thank you for giving that priority to the schools that need the support the most. And that they need the support, and for your outstanding leadership, and also for creating an environment where all of the students can thrive, and with the dedication, with passion, and with the passion that you have, Dr. Baker, you have had a positive impact in our school community. And like we said, our community, like our Hoover community, it's really big. So we are very thankful with you and thankful for you, and God is with you.
Gracias, Lisbeth. I think, oh, I'm going to butcher this name. I think it is Saoirse Rafferty.
Yes. in the audience. Yes.
Oh, did I get it?
Saoirse.
Hi. Hi, I am Saoirse. I am a fourth grader at Orion, and I wanted to say how much I love my school and my teachers. But I do think that if the budget is cut, I think that we will be able to adapt. I appreciate that all that Dr. Baker and the school board is doing for our school and our district. I love to learn, and I can't wait to go to Kennedy. And I really appreciate being able to go to school in a diverse district. These STEM cuts won't affect me, but I hope that we can pass a bigger get a bigger parcel tax passed so that all kids can have what they need to learn. Thank you.
Saoirse, before you sit down, I just want to thank you for speaking tonight. That was very brave of you. I know that a lot of grownups are afraid to come to our meetings and speak to us. So thank you very much. I'm proud of you. Sue Jorgensen?
Sue Jorgensen, Taft School, Taft Library. Hate to break a run of all positive. I'm concerned tonight because of the lack of communication from the district. My group librarians I found on the agenda that there are 3 that are going to be laid off. The official notice that we got was 36 hours ago from HR, and in it, that lovely HR person revealed that not only was it the 3, but she outed 3 of us that are retiring. Completely unprofessional, in my opinion, but it is representative of the type of communication. I found it coincidental, if you want to use that word, that the 3 people being laid off got a reclass approved. It will not go before your board because they will be laid off. They've been guaranteed that they will have a job, blah, 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 but the discussions won't even start until tomorrow. We pay a lot of money in this district for a communications director. I am not seeing that. I've lived here over 30 years. I'm a homeowner here. I'm not agreeing to a parcel tax at this point. I want to be convinced that it's a good thing. All my kids were educated here. I want to stay in this district and support it, but I'm not feeling that. Thank you.
Thank you. So I know that there's some clarification that needs to be provided on the librarian. Is that coming up in another presentation or? It is, okay. Well, we can address that then. Salvador Gomez, I can't read that. Nava? Should be in person because I have a card. Oh, I wonder if that's who just walked out. We'll wait on that. He may come back. Anne Berlaffa?
Sorry. Hi, everybody. Good evening, and thank you for this opportunity to speak. My name is Anne Berriaffa, and I've been with the Redwood City School District for over 32 years. I've had the privilege and opportunity to work directly for and with many of you up there and many of you out here. I've lived through the good, the bad, and the ugly of the budget cuts with the district over the years as well. And I know firsthand how difficult this is. Although my heart is surely heavy with this need to once again cut imperative positions such as our counselors, our librarians, our reading support, and our STEAM teachers, tonight I'm actually here to advocate for our collective bargaining unit request that we enshrine into the contract a 25-to-1 class size for our K-2 classrooms. Our Redwood City students deserve the best. And while the district has had the foresight in the recent years to leave the K-2 classrooms at a 25 or below, our current contract allows these numbers to be pushed to 31 with no additional adults in the classroom. And with the specific needs of our incoming kiddos, the lingering effects of the pandemic, increasing numbers of neurodivergent students and students with different abilities, it makes managing a large class size in a primary grade classroom just that, managing, and not allowing enough time for actual teaching and relationship building. Teachers and support staff want to do their best for all of our students, academically, emotionally, physically. But the reality is that when you have a very large class size, it makes all of these desires extremely difficult in a K-2 classroom. Research has proven that, and we know from firsthand experience during the pandemic, that relationship building, especially with our littlest learners, is key to future success in school. And speaking from my experience teaching kindergarten and first grade in the years past, when we did have these high numbers, although we all did our best, we were not always able to reach the needs and meet the needs of every student. The reality of having such a large class size is that students will inevitably fall through the cracks. And sadly, the ones that fall through the cracks most often are our quiet, our shy ones, our ELs, and English language learners, and students with learning differences who might be overlooked and become further marginalized. One more part. I'm hoping now that we're funded through the basic aid, as opposed to ADA, the district and the board will make the choice that's best for our Redwood City School District students, and that is to enshrine the 1-to-25 ratio in K-2 grades. Our Redwood City students deserve this. Thank you.
Sam. Our next speaker is Sherry Tsukiyama.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Sherry Tichiyama. I'm a first grade teacher at Roosevelt Elementary School. And I would like to speak like Anne about class sizes. I too think it's important to enshrine the 25 or less in our contract because it has made a huge difference in my classroom. First of all, I would like to say thank you to the district for making the last few years we've had those numbers. And I can tell you my personal experience, it has been really, really good. When I first started teaching here, it was 20 kids in my classroom, and I didn't realize how good it was until the numbers went up to 28 and 29. And you do see kids falling through the cracks, and it was hard. But now in my class, with only 25 students, I'm meeting with the kids much more often in small groups. I'm able to do that because the other kids, I don't have, 30 other kids running around. There's much more student participation. I'm able to call on the students more often. I'm able to facilitate more student group work. There's less disruptions in class because I am able to move around the room and have more control over the situation. After COVID, there are many more needs that need to be addressed. And with a smaller class size, I'm able to give more time and energy to those kids. I have 2 students this year who did not attend preschool or kindergarten, and I've had more time to address their needs as well. They're coming along good, by the way. Also, we fit into the classroom better. I think our classrooms were designed for 20-1. So I have more spaces, flex spaces, study spaces for the kids with this kind of numbers. Our kids deserve the best. And while I really think class sizes should go back to 20-1, I think permanently making 25 students a cap for the TK second grade would be a step in the right direction. Thank you.
Jessica McLean.
Hello, board members. My name is Jessica McLean. This is my 6th year teaching in the district as a education specialist. I currently teach a transitional kindergarten extensive needs learning center with 8 amazing students. There are many types of special education teachers, but the ESLC classes, or formerly known as the moderate to severe disabilities special day classes, teach students who have the highest level of support needs. I'm often told that I must be a patient person to work with the kiddos that I teach, but it's often not the kids that I have to find the patience for. It's the barriers that special educators have to work through that test my patience. High caseload size being the main barrier that I would like to talk about today. The California Teachers Association recommends the following teacher caseloads for special educators. Autism class, 6 pupils. Moderate to severe classes, 6 to 8 pupils. Low incidence disability classrooms, 4 to 8 pupils. Like I said earlier, I currently teach 8 lovely students with a wide range of disabilities, and I will likely to end with 9, and my projected caseload number for the 2024-25 year will be 10 TK to first grade students. Other projected special education caseload numbers in this district are also pushing alarmingly high numbers, the highest I've seen since I've started working in this district. I love my job and my students to death, but having such a high caseload number doesn't allow students to get their specific and important needs met. Moving around safely, receiving the required attention and instruction needed, quiet and calm environments. These are just to name a few. Strong safety concerns also start to arise when caseload numbers are this high. It seems like the answer has always been to max out caseload numbers and then funnel in aides and behavior therapists to support classes that have too many students or are having issues. This unfortunately contributes more to the problem. Reduced caseload numbers will remove the need for extra adults and give our students the means to actually focus and thrive. In addition of just one more ESLC and SLC class for next year, will decrease caseload numbers for all of these classes. I know budgets are tight, but I believe our most vulnerable students deserve better. Our CSD students deserve the best. Thank you.
Thank you. Allison Sudol.
Good evening, trustees and Dr. Baker. My name is Allison Sudol. Next year will be my 9th year in the district and my 7th year teaching my little loves in the 1st to 3rd grade extensive support needs classroom on the Roosevelt campus. My first year in this classroom back in 2017, I had 6 students, then 7, then 8, followed by 2 years with 11 students, and the past 2 years with 10 students. Every year for the past 4 years, I've had to advocate for my students, myself, and my support staff to remain at a realistic cap of 10 students. I currently have a projection of 12 students for next school year. Since increasing class sizes in 2019, we've seen a significant increase in unsafe behaviors, dysregulation, and elopement. For those of you who don't know the term, it's just students who are leaving the classroom. While adding 1 or 2 students to a classroom like ours may seem trivial, anyone intimately involved in a higher support needs classroom knows this is not the case. These programs were designed to support sensory needs and regulation. Adding 2 extra students to the mix inevitably causes dysregulation of the entire classroom, which then leads to these unsafe behaviors. Me and my colleagues have come up with a solution for next year that ensures the safety and well-being of our students. By opening 1 more extensive support needs classroom and 1 more specialized learning center classroom next year, 5+ high needs programs go from having 12 to 14 students to 8 to 10. I'm more than happy to send my in-depth proposal if you're curious to see what that could look like. I love my students and their families, who I think most are on this call, more than I can ever express, and raising class sizes in this way is a disservice and detriment to us all. Thank you.
Thank you. So Connie and Beverly, I just want to ask, you both have agenda item 8. Would you want to speak now or do you want to wait for the next? Okay. So next is Aaron Washburn.
Good evening. My name is Erin Washburn. My pronouns are they, them, and theirs, and I'm a music teacher in the Redwood City School District. And tonight I am simply here to tell you the benefits of having a well-funded, proper music education program for our kids because our elementary music programs are being cut. I'll start with performance. A lot of people think that this is what a lot of people see as the performance. But it's not really about the beautiful sound of 30 kids playing recorder on a stage. Actually, what performance provides for our kids is the ability to be in front of an audience, to know what it's like, what that feels like, to develop that self-awareness, consider perspective, and it's foundational for skill building around public speaking and learning how to face their fears. Practicing in rehearsal spaces helps them to understand that they're going to improve over time. It's not about instant gratification, but developing patience with themselves and others. It fosters work ethic, discipline, and it teaches them about being part of an interconnected system to create something bigger, a song. It's about how to really listen. It builds school culture, creates a common catalog of songs, bridges generations, and brings community together, and it gives kids a sense of pride and belonging at school. Social emotional benefits include stress relief. It's fun. And for some of our students, it's really important because it might be the one place on campus where they actually can excel. It can help boost a child's confidence. Academically, it enhances memory skills for vocabulary and language acquisition. Elementary music programs help with fine motor skills, eye-hand coordination, builds capacity for multitask brain functions because you have to read, interpret, and then the physical action of making the music while being present in the current moment and thinking forward of what's coming next. So it's really good for your brain having these programs and learning how to do music. I would urge administrators to seriously consider what a great and well-funded music education program could do for the climate and the culture at their schools. And I would urge parents to insist on this benefit of having a good music education program for their children. Thank you.
Thank you, Erin. Diane Gutierrez. Diane? Should be in person. I have a card. Lily.
Diane? Did you say
Yeah, Diane.
Oh.
Oh.
Good evening to all of you. Thank you so much for your time. I love that this is my first time ever speaking to board. I've been a dual immersion teacher. You can hear me, dual immersion teacher, Spanish. First, second, third reading recovery, descubriendo la lectura. And then now I've transitioned, thanks to Redwood City, to being a school counselor over at Orion. Name's Diane Gutierrez. I love what I do. And I love that I see smiles on faces every day and I receive hellos. I was compelled to come and speak because I felt it a kind of a sign. Yesterday, there was a student in the library before school ended. He was really dysregulated, and the teacher came in. My room is in the library, and said, "Please speak to this student." I said, "Sure." So I brought him in. We had some Rice Krispies down, and I said, "Are you ready to talk? Would you like to speak?" And no, I said, that's fine. You don't have to if you don't want to. Would you like to play? Or would you like to maybe read a book? Or are you ready to go back? What would you like? He said, I'd like to go back. And then I said, would you like to practice asking your teacher if you could come back? And he said, yes. Okay, so we practiced and then we went back to the library where the class was. I asked his teacher if he could come back. And then before I left this part out, before we did that, he said, I said to him, if you ever want to check in, please come. I am here. This is my room. You're welcome. You can tell your teacher, I can pick you up. Maybe if I'm busy, I can pick you up later in the day. And he shook his head. He said, yes. This morning, I was walking down the hallway and he stopped me and he said, will I be a mental health counselor next year? And I said, it caught me by surprise. I said, I'm not sure what it's going to look like, but as soon as I know, I will let you know. And I said, you can check in this year if you would like. The security for a student to know that there's someone there they can check in with if they need to, it just dawned on me how important that is for them, that safety net. And I invite you to consider hopefully having mental health school counselor at every site available for students to have that safety net. And I realized all of you have this difficult position, make this decision. And I thank you for your time. And I'm so proud to work at Redwood City School District. I love the people I work with and all that I do. Thank you.
Thank you. Lily Milton?
Hi, everyone, trustees and superintendent and staff. Good evening. Thank you so much for having us. My name is Lily Milton. I'm an Orion and Kennedy parent and a board member of the Redwood City Education Foundation. And I'm here now actually for a lot of reasons. So many great comments. I'm so glad. But I really want you to consider rejecting the resolution proposed and request an alternative approach to finding solutions. I really urge you to seek authentic input from the educators in the school sites. And please stop putting schools and programs against each other, which is fostering the scarcity mindset that paralyzes the innovative thinking. Based on the community response to this resolution and agenda item, I don't believe an open and transparent process has taken place. Please stop the toxic pattern of launching expensive initiatives and then abandoning them when priorities shift. The proposed STEAM and music cuts are examples of this. I love them for all the reasons stated, but I also think that it's a problem the way we come and go. Where any cuts or reduction in services are deemed absolutely necessary, take an equitable approach, which means cutting from the last from the schools who need it most. Please hold our district accountable for serving all of our students and demand a plan for outlining the steps to achieve it. I echo the community comments that the district needs to enshrine the 25-to-1 ratio into the contract as an absolute district priority. And I agree that a parcel tax would be a much needed infusion of resources, but I do fear that the current lack of trust in the district would make the campaign difficult at this time. I urge the district to work to rebuild the trust through greater transparency and collaboration. Thank you.
Dave Freibush, I believe, is online. Hi, Dave, go ahead. You can unmute.
Hi, good evening. Thank you. I won't take too much time. There's been so many articulate comments. I do want to acknowledge, that I understand that the board is in a difficult position dealing with, budget mandates that come from other places. But it does seem unconscionable in a in an area where you can't buy, you know, a garage sells for $1 million, that that we're talking about cutting librarians, mental health professionals, STEM teachers. It, you know, there just seems to be a disconnect. And, you know, I did look at it, you know, it does seem like some, you know, greater money has come into the district from the county over the last few years. I apologize that I, you know, don't know enough to say, is that money being allocated effectively? But, you know, I would just echo that I think we need some creative solutions here. And that, you know, everything that Lily said, I would echo that we need to take a step back from cutting all these positions and see if we can come up with a better solution. Thank you.
Thank you. We have one more speaker card. I'm not actually sure this is on this topic, but it's James King.
I'm going to refrain.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we'll bring it back to the board for comments, thoughts. Whoever would like to start, or Lisa, if you want to hop in sometime.
Sorry. Thanks for the presentation. First of all, thank you everyone that is here for being parents in our district, for being staff in our district and teachers, for taking your time to come in here, and everyone that's online that's here. I deeply appreciate the work that all of you do, and how you really are part of you are the Redwood City School District community. You're the ones that put that together, and I just want to say thank you so much for participating tonight, sharing your thoughts, bringing your unique experiences and your unique perspectives, and making sure that those get voiced so that we can hear them all. Just wanted to make sure that you know, you knew how much I appreciated hearing from all of you tonight. Thank you. Also, thanks for putting together the presentation. I think that did help answer a lot of the questions that I had initially, also that we had received an email. I think the big thing for me was around like the process that happened here, and how did we go about making these decisions and those priorities. I'm pretty sure you covered it mostly in the presentation, that it was, we identified how much had to get cut, and then each site administrator helped figure out how that was going to work for their site. Is that,
And they were to go to the school site council. We do have one school site that didn't get in that, did meet with staff and did meet, I think, with PTO, but hadn't met with the school site council yet. And that's all I'm going to say about that. But that's one site that didn't. But the rest did. They also met with Wendy and Anna to go through each of the funding that they had with the fine-tooth comb. The funding that was not put into play at this point in time is their Measure U dollars. So Measure U dollars are still dollars that the site staff and site council are going to determine how to utilize the monies. So, and we looked at our priority sites, but there's one question I think we're going to look at is Taft a bit for the 0.5 counselor.
So I think for Taft, I think what's missing in here is Taft actually has multiple counselors, not just, they have the mental health. And then there is an extra counselor. They have One Life, as well as they have an extra counselor that comes through the county. It's the only site actually that has that right now. So they do have an extra counselor on staff currently, and that has been there for a number of years. So I believe there's 3 right now, and I may be missing 1. Am I right, Laura?
Yes, there
Yeah.
are part-time providers.
Yeah.
That's
Is
the
there
contract.
one through RCEF also, or is that?
And then there's RCF hours. Yeah, 30. Yeah, so RCF also has the 30 hours. Correct.
And then just to make you aware, you know, many comments have been, you know, seek outside funding, look for grants. We do have about 3 grants in the hopper right now. We will not know until April 15th, but those are for our April, May. Those are for our priority school sites. And I did get a $500,000 donation from a funder that I spoke to last week on Tuesday. That will help maintain the number of counselors that, not all of them, but a good set of them. Wendy brings it down to, I forget what now. The 0.5s, but the full-time people help maintain those that are listed at the school sites. I asked for $1 million, but I got 500K. I'm still hoping that I can get some, but well, right now I've got 500K coming.
And so, and a lot of there's a deadline here, right? That we have to have the
That's
announcement.
the bad
to be able to
thing.
put this thing. Can you remind me what the deadline is? I think it's mid-March, right?
March 15th.
March 15th. And so you unable to wait to find out what that answer is because we have to.
Right, and the grants that were written were for the priority schools.
Okay.
They were written in a manner where the requirements need to have a certain number of unduplicated populated students.
Okay.
Can we walk people through what happens on March 15th?
I'll let Wendy do that.
Sure, I'd be happy to. So through education code, there is requirement that school boards take action on any type of reductions for certificated or classified staff, board approved and individuals notified by the deadline of March 15th. And so individuals who are not in positions yet will receive certified mail with very legalese letters that describe the whole process, which is required by Ed Code. And after March 15th has passed, the district has an obligation to fund those positions for the following school year. So very unlike any other industry, the problematic part is that we receive initial budgets in mid-January for the following year, which is a draft. And then, further more firm budgets come in mid-May. So that's part of the budgetary cycle. I know that Rick Edson has described in the past, of course. But the problematic piece is that we have to make, and this is in a typical year, this is not even necessarily addressing the one-time monies. It's any funding sources in which we have to analyze in anticipation for a budgetary problem for the next year or a reduction needed. The interesting piece is there are, as Dr. Baker mentioned, after March 15th, there are other positions that can then be added. That's when grants come in, Measure U, site council decisions are made, and some other fine-tuning pieces. However, the elimination of positions or reductions have to be determined by March 15th under Ed Code, and you can't look back. And so that's why, it's very strenuous for everybody involved, but certainly for the board to have to forecast these items, because once again, this budgetary piece in a typical year is based on the January 15th governor's proposal. The unique situation tonight is we know that one-time monies were indeed one-time monies. And so the monies are drying up. And so therefore the alternatives are to, look at other funding sources. And so, so anyway, that's the nutshell version of the Ed Code.
So then we've gone through a process working with the sites. You sort of identified what the reductions are going to be. You sort of talked with the principals, they've worked with their staff and their site councils to be able to put that together. When we did our interim budget, there was identified that we needed to address a budget stabilization. That was in December now. Does this address how does this affect the stabilization plan?
Yeah, thanks, Trustee Wells. The combination of this, along with other measures that we've taken along the way, right, in terms of also looking at potential savings this year from open positions, the recalculation of our LCFF estimated apportionment based on the governor's January budget with the low COLA, which also impacts the amount of money that we have to pay in lieu taxes to charter schools. A combination of all that would put us on track for fiscal solvency in the eyes of the state with our current year and our 2 out years, and returning to positive certification for a second interim, which will be presented on the 20th of March.
So just to kind of recap, there's kind of two important deadlines coming up that we have no flexibility or leniency to move. One of those is about cuts for the upcoming year, and that must be locked and loaded on March 15th. That's not our decision. And the second is a budgetary filing due on March 20th that has to show that for the next 3 years, we are fiscally solvent.
That's it.
Is that a reasonable
Current plus
summary?
2 years.
Current plus 2
Current
years.
plus
Thank
2,
you.
so I threw that. 3
Sorry,
years.
that's a better way of saying it. Thank you.
I just want to add on top of that, and I forwarded it to the board. I did, as board president, receive a letter from the county that Rick and John were also on, regarding our first interim budget that was a qualified certification. And the county, in that letter, says the county reviewed our first interim budget report. The county superintendent has decided to direct the Redwood City School District to submit a financial projection of all funds and cash at second interim, which is March 20th, and directs the district to submit a proposal for addressing the fiscal condition.
And just for the benefit of members of the audience, if we were to fail to submit a current plus 2-year plan on March 20th that showed these reductions, which I believe were a total between all the different things we could do of about $5 million. If we weren't to do that, can you give a 30-second summary of the consequences?
Sure. If we were in the same position as we were at first interim and we self-certified our budget as qualified, again, the county then would look at it the same as it would anytime we submit an interim report. And they'd either agree with us or doubtful they'd ever say you were positive, but there would be a chance that they could downgrade us as well. Highly unlikely, but that is one of the options the county has. At that point, if you are self-certified as qualified at the second interim, you are then, by order of the CDE, required to do a third interim report that would take expenditures through April 30th. At that report, there is no self-certification. It's just an update to the county. And then we go directly into budget adoption in June. And carrying that through, you don't self-certify or put a status on your budget at first interim, it would be looked at again. And if you were still in a qualified state, then the county would have to contact FICMAT, which is the Fiscal Crisis and Management Assistance Team, and they would come in and do a review. So with the expectation that on March 20th, we will return to positive, then all of that goes away and we go back to our normal budgeting cycle, where we'll come back in June with the public hearing for our budget along with the LCAP, and then budget adoption at the last meeting.
Thank you. So we're required by the state to have a current plus 2-year budget that shows fiscal solvency, and there's consequences for failing to achieve that.
Right.
Thank you.
We got really close, and that's why we went in the direction to close schools. I think my second year. They were ready to come in and start telling us what to do.
So the last thing I wanted to say was that, I'm glad to hear about potential grants coming that might come in there. I know later we're going to be talking about feasibility studies for ways to be able to increase revenue to come in here. I am also very grateful for the one-time funds, whether you wanted to deal with them or not, because they did allow the establishment of, look, all these positions are really critical. I mean, it's just, they're so valuable for the students. They're all having an impact for how our students are going to find success both in school and in life, and many times helping their families support as well. And so it's really difficult. And there are real people behind it. There's real students behind it that are impacted, and families. And it makes it very challenging. I will say that I think that involving the principals and the site councils and getting understanding what they need at their site to pull that in seems like the right process to have followed. I realized there were hiccups. Some communication didn't work out well. I think it might be worth reviewing, how this went, and are there ways to improve? Should this be needed to be done again in the future? But I think because of all of that, I will be supporting the resolution and saying that, this is the right path to go forward, as we talk about it.
And just to remind you, this funder, what's giving us the 500K, and the grants are only for, the grants are for 2 years.
Right.
And then they go.
Their time,
The funder is here for 1 year.
Yeah.
And that's gone.
Right. Yeah, they're not an ongoing solution for
right,
this.
right.
But every year helps, especially, these years that are so critical for, as we're still seeing the impact of, for particularly for the youngest learners coming through the pandemic, and coming out and all of that. So, I'm not going to say no to one-time funds. I think that, we'll be able to pull those things in and get them to support. Because like I said, look, these roles are critical.
And I
We
totally
don't
agree.
want to see them
I
go
totally
away.
agree.
Right.
It's just that for the audience and for the parents, because they all vote, when education needs to be funded in a manner which it's equitable across the board for all schools in the state of California. And that does not happen. Yes, we are basic aid, but we are poor basic aid. Look at my neighbor to the south, the millions and millions of dollars they get more than what we do. I get so upset every time I'm at the superintendent's meeting and don't talk about your budget. You guys have got this. I just wanted to state that, sorry.
Yeah, and one last thing, I think I said thank you to all our speakers. I did really appreciate hearing from everyone, but I did want to recognize Saoirse again, just for, having one of our students come up and be able to speak at the board. Love hearing students talking, and presenting in their voice, their message. So thanks.
So my comment is, thank you, Mike, because you always put things just so well. I just want to say ditto to everything you said. And of course, one-time funding was crucial, right? After COVID, there's many positions that became available, and it's really hard times. Obviously, us as board members, we're putting this situation, but again, principals know what they're doing. Again, when it comes down to the communication, if there was any broken communication, we apologize if that didn't set things straight. We're regular people just like you are. And it does, just like some of the people in the audience said with the heavy heart, we do have, feelings, and you guys are all equal to us. We are board members, but again, we're just community members just like you are. So I do want to say that it is really hard times and is very unfortunate, just like Dr. Baker said, there's other school districts that are better off than we are. And it is very unfortunate because of the funding of the state of California. My daughter is a teacher, so I totally understand when it comes out to certificated staff. And I'm a classified employee at another district. So I totally get what everybody is. And I do want to say a comment that somebody made about communication. I feel, because I do compare our district with other districts, we are transparent. As a matter of fact, sometimes I think, not to say that it's wrong, but even Dr. Baker says a lot more than what I was actually even hoping for. And again, I do compare it. And so I just want to say, if you ever have any miscommunication or misunderstanding, we are here. We do get a lot of emails. I do want to say thank you to all those people that send us email. There's just so many and just not enough time to respond, but I do want to acknowledge everyone. And I just want to let you guys know that we do care for Redwood City. We wouldn't be here. I mean, I'm a parent. I've always been an involved parent. And we are here in this position because we care. It's not here for the money, because we don't get paid much. And it's not, again, it's just, we want to be able to help all of our students in Redwood City. So I just want to make you aware that it does hurt when it comes down to and I want to point out, all of the mental health clinicians or liaisons are very important, but I do want to say, in the case of Marianne, I love you. I mean, and I don't want to get sentimental, but I wish I had a person like you when I was in school. And I get that your position it's gonna get cut. But it's tough times. And it is very unfortunate, but hopefully things will work out. Just like they said, there's some vacancy positions. I hope that all of you that are able to either get another 0.2 or a 0.5, even if it's somewhere else, remember this is still Redwood City. And I think if we care for our students, which you guys all have shown that we do, that you still remain with us because we do care. And who knows, maybe, the governor will look at things differently and hopefully we'll get funded, soon. It is very unfortunate, but I just want to let you guys know that we totally care. It's tough. It really is. And I just want to let you guys know, I don't know how else to express it, that we really do mean what we say. And again, the recommendations come from the principals, from the superintendent. They are the educators that actually see what you guys go through day in and day out. So we trust them, I trust them. And I just want to say it's definitely hard times, but it's things that we have to do. Otherwise, even if we don't do it now, it's going to have to be done next year or the year before. And if we don't start cutting little by little, eventually it's going to get even worse. I'm going back to my daughter's now 27 years old. And I see 3 Roosevelt staff members that I've known for over 20 years. And I remember when those cuts happened back when my daughter was in kindergarten, and the district unfortunately had to let go of very good teachers, and it was very unfortunate. And again, because of the funding, we have to notify the staff that they're gonna get let go. And a month later, a position comes open, but unfortunately, those certificated staff already found a job at another school district. And it's very unfortunate of how the system works in education. So I just want to let you guys know that we do care and that there are sometimes unfortunate situations, but that we totally understand. So thank you for your commitment.
So, Elisa or David, I don't know if you were done with your comments. Yeah, you and Elisa. Elisa, he's saying you can have the floor.
Oh, wait.
Okay,
can you hear me now? I had double muted myself just in case, I think. Anyway, hi everyone. I really wish I could have been here tonight. I'm really sorry that I needed to come on virtually, but I'm helping with some elder care right now. So anyway, I'm there in spirit, and I certainly was able to join virtually and listen to everything. I wanted to say, first of all, thank you to all the speakers, the parents, students, teachers, staff who spoke tonight. I really appreciate hearing from you. I know that all of us do. You help us make better decisions. And I also want to say thank you for all the emails and phone calls that I got the last couple of weeks. I was able to get back to most people, but not everyone, but I was able to read everything. And I'm sure that's the case with all of the board members. And again, it's really important for us to hear from you. I truly believe that it does help us make better decisions. And then I want to give just a special shout out to all of our teachers and all of our staff in Redwood City. You work so hard every single day for our students and families. And much of that came out tonight in what we heard from speakers, as well as the emails that I got. And I really appreciate it. I've been a school board member for 17 years. And when I started on the school board back in 2007, I came on with all these ideas of things that I wanted to do for our district and for our students, right? And then we went right into the Great Recession, and we had to do drastic cuts. I mean, much worse than what we're talking about today. We got down into classrooms. It was horrible, really horrible. And so I have seen this happen before. We were able to kind of build back from the Great Recession. Frankly, Redwood City School District has never had enough money to fully fund our education, provide for our students what they really deserve. However, what I'm really proud about is it's amazing that even with the little engine who could, is how I feel a lot of times, we are still able to provide a high quality education. And we heard from some of the parents and students, both in emails and tonight, how they are getting the education and they're happy with school and they love their teachers and they love their staff. And so even with all of that, we're still able to provide. And I want to remind us that we have actually, since my 17 years in the school district, we have always relied on one-time funding. We've always relied on patchworking things together. It always looks worse in March than it does in August. Because by the time we get to August, a little more money has come in, as a lot of people have spoken about tonight. So we know that there's some grant funding, some donations. We have a parcel tax we're going to talk about later tonight. And just to keep in mind, really, there's very few additional funding. I mean, we are a property tax funded district, so we get primarily our funding from property taxes. We get a little bit of extra state funding, a little bit of extra federal funding. Again, I will point out that the state and federal government, they have never funded special ed fully. In fact, in my opinion, it's criminal how little they give us for special ed students. And they're the ones who mandate it. And of course, we believe that our special ed students deserve it, right? So let's just start with there, that the state and federal government are not providing the funding that they need to provide. So we have to look inward, we have to look to our community, and we have very few ways of doing that. We can look for donations or we can look for a parcel tax. So I appreciate the conversations about creativity, and I certainly welcome any ideas you have. And certainly we do lease out school sites and classrooms where we can. But all of those things are on the margin really of what we need. So, we will continue to speak creatively, sorry. And I encourage you, if you have any specific ideas, please email me. I know we're always happy to look into those. Anyway, I want to also just point out, I was doing just a little research and some of the data was a little bit old, but just keep in mind, like when people compare us to Palo Alto Unified School District, they are spending way more money, including more than $10,000 per student a year. If we had that kind of money, we'd have another $60 million in our school district. Imagine what we could do, because the cuts before us today are just minuscule compared to that $60 million. We would be able to provide so much more, right, if we had the Palo Alto funding. Menlo Park has more than $5,000 per student more than us. So again, that'd be $30 million. So just think of what we could do with that. So the point I want to bring up is that Redwood City is a little engine who could. I'm really proud of what we do. But unfortunately, this is the cycle. We get one-time funding, and then when that funding goes away, we have to either lay off those positions or we have to find new money. So unfortunately, the way the system works also is that we have to give the notice to all of our employees by March 15th, as was discussed. And so we may still continue, and I mean, we've already heard tonight that we know there's some additional money coming in. So hopefully we can bring back some of these positions. And I've seen it year over year. We often are able to bring back a few of them. And I really care about all of the things we talked about, the mental health, the STEAM, everything. So anyway, I just want to, and music. I think music's not part of STEAM, so I want to make sure I guess maybe it is. Anyway, but I just want to say thank you. I'm really sorry to those individuals who are impacted. I know how hard it is. I've talked to a few of you. I've gotten emails. Please know that we value you. And I'm really happy to hear from Ms. Kelly that we should have positions for everybody. If we're not able to bring back the position you're currently holding, as money comes in. So anyway, with a heavy heart, I will be supporting this resolution. But once again, I've had to make a lot of hard decisions as a school board member, and some of them I believe are not the best interest for students, but it's what we have to do in order to maintain our financial stability, because I can tell you that if we don't maintain our financial stability, the state will come in and they don't even listen to all these comments. They're just going to go in on a tactical basis to start cutting things. I mean, it's not a humane process. You can talk to any of the school districts that have had it done, and it takes years and years to recover from that sort of thing. So we don't even want to get close to that happening. So I do want to say thank you very much to Dr. Baker, to our CBO, Rick, and just to all the district staff and to the principals who have worked really hard on this. I know it's really hard decisions. It's never easy to make these recommendations. And I know that I've had some conversations and I feel comfortable with the process that we used. So anyway, thank you, everybody. And again, I wish we just had more money. So we got to work towards that. And we'll have an agenda item later on the agenda where we can talk about that. Thank you.
Thanks, Elisa.
Hey, folks. I want to acknowledge this is a really tough situation. My son, Max, is at Orion. You heard a number of other speakers from Orion. His favorite class there is his STEAM class. So we got a number of notes advocating for STEAM education that, hey, it's really important. And I couldn't agree more. This is something that's going to impact my own children. So it's like I resonate with the arguments that were made about the importance here. I really appreciated the comments like from Erin about the brain development in the use of the arts and performing and music. I really appreciated the notes from the librarians. Public libraries played a really important role in my own education, and I think it's really important that we support them here in the district. We are pro-STEAM, we're pro-arts, we're pro-libraries, and we also have to be pro-balanced budget, and that puts us in a really crappy position. It's been really amazing just to see the passion, all of the different people who care about a high quality education for all of the students here, who care about equitable education for all of our students in the district. I've gotten a lot of emails. We've filled a room here, and we've had at one point, I noted over 160 folks online. For a lot of folks, that's it burdened just even tonight showing up. People have spouses, people have kids who need care, elders that need care, and you've invested your time here because you care. So thank you for caring. That's what makes a district work. That's how we're going to deliver quality education to our students. So thank you, staff. Thank you, teachers. Thank you, parents. That's how the district is going to work. We got a number of prods from speakers to be creative about how we're going to fund things. Amen. Let's get creative. I even heard from Allison that she has an in-depth proposal. Yeah, I want to see it. Let's go and tap the collective creativity of this group to see like how can we make sure that we get a high quality education for each of our students. So thank you. It's a tough call, but we have to make it. You've heard the dates. These are not things that we have the power to move as a district. And so even though we're going to have to move forward, it's A, with a heavy heart, and B, we hope that we can help support and fund these roles going forward. So thank you so much for everyone who's come out, who's spoken, and who cares about the students of this district.
This is the hardest, or one of the hardest part of the job. As a school board member, a few years ago, we had to cut 18 million. That was my first experience as a board member having to cut. And that was really difficult. Thankfully, I had colleagues beside me that had gone through, like Elisa, the recession before that. I've read every email. I admittedly have not responded to every single one, but I've gotten to a lot of them. I think every email up through 5:30 tonight. I've read all the comments on the Facebook page. I've read all the comments on Nextdoor. And I want to remind people this is not, and I think everybody here has heard this is not a top-down decision. This went out to the school sites. The principals helped make decisions about what was important for their school sites to keep and what they felt like they could cut in order to help us balance the budget. This is not the school board sitting here saying, you must all reduce these positions or else. We care very much about what happens on each school site. We care about the culture. We care about the students and the staff there. I have always been a huge champion of music and arts. That was my life growing up. My now high schooler was in orchestra at Kennedy. My now sixth grader just loves his STEAM class at Kennedy. I was on the Redwood City Library Board for 7 years. These are things I'm passionate about, and I don't disagree with you. I've read the science behind what music and art does to a brain. I understand how important it is. I wish we had an extra $60 million to put into this district. As has been mentioned, and I think everybody here knows, we don't have a choice as to when we make these decisions. It would be irresponsible to push this off and then be stuck having to find funding for them when we don't know where that funding is going to come from. If that funding comes in, I am all for bringing those positions back as much as we can. And we've done it in the past. I'm hopeful that we will be able to do that come, the fall. Dr. Baker is just absolutely like a magician making money appear. It's always just only 500K, and then there's a little bit more and a little bit more. I don't know what money tree he found, but this isn't easy. I'm born and raised in Redwood City. I am a product of the Redwood City School District, as is Cecilia. I care about it. I care about the schools. I care about the community. And I hate to make decisions that hurt people and hurt families. As my dad taught me growing up, sometimes I have to do the hard things, even if I don't want to do them. And so, with that said, I will support the resolution. Yeah.
Number one is just to thank everyone who's here tonight. And number two, all those that are online virtually. This is a very difficult time for anybody that has to bring forward, by anyone, I mean a superintendent, that brings forward a resolution like this to the Board of Education. I didn't think I'd be in this situation since the closing of schools, which was horrendous, as many of you went through that with us. I'll get off my soapbox, but we have to be funded well, and that's by the state. I know, Anne, you made the comment about basic aid, but the basic aid dollars are minimal compared to our neighbors in the south and to the north of us. If that were to ever change, we'd have an equal opportunity as they do to provide everything that they provide to their communities and to their students. But we're not there yet, and I don't know what or when that'll ever happen. It was very difficult for the principals to even hear this information when we went through it right after winter break about what we were going to need to do. And we looked at each of these different types of fundings we were receiving and the amount of money that was being allotted for each of them. And they said, aren't you going to tell us what to cut? No. They are there with you, teachers and staff and parents. They know the community so much better than we do. We are here to support their work and your work. And I know maybe you don't believe that, but we do. And so I have a lot of faith in our site administrators. And many of them right now are out searching for additional dollars. They are looking at creative ways of using the Measure U dollars, which are the parcel tax dollars, which they have along with their school site councils and their staffs, total control of. We do not mandate how they're utilized, with the exception that they follow the guidelines that were stipulated in the parcel tax language. And that's that spreadsheet that comes to the board every year. Sometimes addendums come during the year of how that money is going to be spent. And then it goes before our public oversight committee that reviews it. So I believe with those small extra dollars, they're going to cobble some things together. But as was expressed this evening, we're just up against that deadline for March 15th. I wish it were May 15th, but that's just not going to happen. It's ed code. So I value each and every one of the employees that we have in this school district. Many of you I've known for years, and we go back a long time. Sherry, we do too, and the other K teachers we do also at Roosevelt, and have been with us during those rough times when 2 years in a row, this board, I was not the superintendent, I was in HR, 2 years in a row, they released 50 teachers. I'm not talking just I'm not even getting to the classified. It was 50 teachers each year. And you talk about a board that was crying at the end of each of those evenings and each of those years. I'm glad we're not at that point. We're not there, but this is just as hurtful. This is just as hurtful. So again, thank you all for being here this evening, and we will move forward and get through this together. Thank you.
I'm sorry, board, but this is an action item that we need a motion on.
I will make a motion to adopt resolution 7.
Yeah, sadly, I'll second it.
Trustee Marquez,
Aye.
trustee Weekly,
Aye.
trustee McAvoy,
Aye.
vice president Wells,
Aye.
president Lawson.
Item's done. So I need to recognize it's 9 o'clock. We usually take a 5-minute break. I feel like we have some other important items to get to. How does the board feel right now?
Let's go on.
Keep going. Okay. So that brings us to 7.3. And yes, thank you for those who are here. If you need to step out, that's fine. We won't be offended.
So Wendy, do you want to move forward with this next item?
Thank you. So the next item is regarding our classified staff, the reduction of classified staff. And so the resolution number 8 outlines the number of positions district-wide and or various school sites that are a result of a recommendation of a layoff. Some of them certainly are with one-time monies, but others are, there's rationale for other reasons. For example, our campus supervisors and our school office assistant categories were really as a result of looking at the enrollment, the major enrollment changes, or addressing the staffing that was implemented right after the merge or the closure of schools. And so those particular positions, additional support was given to Kennedy and Adelante, certainly because of the merge, and Garfield as well for many years. And it was time to make a recommendation for that FTE support to be reduced based on the enrollment. For example, Garfield is hovering around 312 students. And so the extra office of support is a recommendation to be reduced. So that's one example. The other items on here are addressing one-time monies, the bilingual newcomer programs, some LVNs. We talked about the classified managers. So that those positions are as a result of the lack of funding, which are the two reasons why there's a layoff, lack of work or lack of funding. The recruitment migrant education program has changed. The San Mateo County Office of Ed is now hosting that program. And so that is the rationale behind the lack of work, so to speak, meaning that work shifted. I do want to address the library media assistant.
¿Puedo opinar o es too late?
Yeah, I know.
Sí, correcto. I probably more better in Spanish because my English is very short. I understand, but more better in Spanish. It's too late. Like, you want to take it?
Si podemos, si tenemos algo, puede participar.
Let's make sure it's microphone.
The microphone, yeah.
So, if
Sí.
¿Está bien? Sí. Bueno, buenas noches. Mi nombre es Salvador. Les pido disculpas. Tuve que salir por mi niña y tuve que regresar, ¿verdad? Creo que fue un poquito tarde, ¿verdad? Pero aquí, la sala no se habló en ningún momento en español y muchos de nosotros el idioma de inglés es muy corto. No podemos captar todo lo que se habla, ¿verdad? Pero bueno, yo aquí estoy este día presente porque quiero dar mi opinión, mi forma de pensar. Eh, Antes de todo, estoy súper agradecido con la directora aquí presente de la escuela TAF hace 2 años. Ahorita está Mr. Macarena. Gracias al personal por la educación que le dan a nuestros hijos. Bueno, y yo estoy aquí más que nada por darle importancia a la consejería de nuestros niños, ¿verdad? Yo tengo una niña de 7 años que va a la escuela TAF y necesita consejería. Entonces, así como yo tengo una niña, hay muchas familias que también necesitan de ese apoyo. ¿Qué pasaría sin ese apoyo? ¿A dónde vamos a mandar a los niños? El trauma que ellos tienen no va a haber quien le dé seguimiento a lo que ellos tienen. ¿A dónde estamos mandando a nuestros hijos? A que al ratito anden en las drogadicciones o haya un tiroteo en la escuela por todo ese trauma que tienen, ¿verdad? Entonces yo pienso que si hay terapias en las escuelas, que si hay esos fondos necesarios para brindarles la ayuda a nuestros niños, sería bien. Y la tenemos.
Sí, gracias.
Sí. Entonces, pues queremos que pues haya fondos suficientes, porque así como yo tengo una niña, hay muchas familias que tienen sus niños que están en la misma situación. Queremos que nuestros hijos crezcan felices, que crezcan su niñez feliz y que tengan una buena educación y que sean exitosos en el futuro. Muchas gracias.
Sí, señor.
Sí.
Ahora quieres decir.
I'm here if you need.
Itself here.
Ok, muchas
Aquí
gracias.
está la- Thank you. Señor, cuando vienes otra vez, nomás tienes que preguntar a nosotros que
Ok.
necesitas a alguien que
Ok.
pueda interpretar para usted.
Ok,
Porque
está bien.
tenemos una persona.
Ok, sí, gracias.
Okay. So the comment is, oh, well, I'm sorry. My name is Salvador. I want to apologize. I had to come out because of my daughter and I had to came back. I think I'm a bit late, but right here in this room, they never spoken, like they never spoke in Spanish, and a lot of us, our English is very limited. We don't understand everything that is being said, right? But I'm here today present because I want to give my opinion and the way that I think. And before than anything, I am very thankful with the principal, with the TAF principal right here present. That was 2 years ago. Right now, Mr. Macarena is there, and thanks to the staff for the education that they're giving our children. And well, I'm here to give importance about the counseling for students. Right, I have a 7-year-old a daughter that attends to Taft and she needs counseling. So then the same thing that, that I have a girl, there's many families that they also need that support. And what would happen without support? You know, where are they going to send our children? You know, the trauma that they have, they are not going to, there's not a person that's going to give a follow-up to the trauma that they have. And where are we sending them? Then later on, they're going to maybe become drug addicts, or there is like a school shooting, or for all of the trauma that they have. So I think that if there's therapy in schools, and if they are those, and if we have the necessary budget to give them the support to our children, then that would be good. We have it. Yes, so then when I wanted us to have enough funds, because the way that I have a daughter, there are many families that have children in the same situation. We want our children to grow up happy, and to grow up to have a happy childhood, and have good education, and to be successful in the future. Thank you very much.
Okay, so I was addressing the PKS classified reduction document and describing the various components. So the last group on the PKS reduction is library media assistance. And I want to be really crystal clear about this. Every school will have a librarian next year. What needs to happen in this process is that we need to take a look at this position, and the district has an interest in changing it, and I'll explain. We entered into a conversation with CSEA last week regarding all of the layoffs. Of course, we do that prior to this meeting, and inform them and go through the list and so forth. And it will then lead to a follow-up discussion, which we've scheduled already for March 21st. But we are meeting tomorrow, specifically about the librarian situation. There's a desire for the district, for equity purposes, to move the LMA, we call it, Library Media Assistant position, to an LMTA, and I'll explain what that means. Gosh, roughly 12-ish years ago, don't quote me on that, but a while back, there were two job descriptions created for librarians. One is the LMA job description, and the other one is the LMTA. The LMTA job description requires extra education, 18 units, to earn an LMTA certificate. It's a Library Media Technical Associate certificate, which included, quite a few things, a primary focus on digital media and so forth. And so years ago, there was the ability for all LMAs at that time to be sort of grandfathered in to be in positions of LMTA, which came with, a significantly higher pay increase with a different job description. So that was years ago. So as time has progressed, we currently have 11 libraries in our district, because North Star and MIT share one. We have 12 sites, but 11 libraries. And they are filled with 9 LMTA librarians and 3 LMA librarians. And while we adore the people in those positions, and they have worked very hard, we do want to infuse and ensure that the students at the LMA library sites can have access to, a more robust librarian program, which is being developed by the teacher librarian, Beth Berlin-Stevens. And so in order to do that, we need to lay off the position to add back the LMTA position, which is the goal of the district. Now, once a layoff occurs, for example, tonight, should the board take action, the district negotiates the effect of the layoff with CSEA, which means that we sit with CSEA into a formal meeting and talk through the ramifications of this, knowing that we have seasoned librarians. How could we make this work? And so those are the brainstorm ideas that will be occurring tomorrow afternoon. And with the intent to do so, 2 of the LMA librarians at the libraries are at Garfield and Hoover, which are two of our high priority sites. The other one is Clifford. And so with that, it is a desire within the board equity goals to really ensure that those programs are essentially equal amongst all of our 11 district schools that are affected. So for multiple years, we've had differences in those job descriptions, and I think it's time to address that. In regards to the comment made earlier regarding a reclassification, there has not been a reclass approved. That was erroneous. It is going through the process, but there has not been an approval such at this time. So that is one thing. And that reclass topic was about making the current LMAs that are in those positions earn the same salary as the LMTA without the certificate. And so that's why, you know, that's sort of irrelevant of this topic tonight. The district's desire is to bring back the LMTA certificated employees for those three positions. And so that's why it's on the resolution tonight, because this is the moment in time in which we can consider that request. But to be perfectly clear, every single school will have a library next year. That's already going to be in place. A librarian, excuse me, at the library. So I wanted to describe the situations regarding the resolution for classified staff.
Oh, we have three speakers on this. The first speaker is Anna Solorio.
Good evening. Next to me are some of the people that might be affected, and probably many others are online right now, and they, as many others, are crucial part of our student success. Dear board members, Dr. Baker, my name is Ana Solorio, and I'm the president of the CSEA Chapter 5, the District Classified Employees Union. I understand that you've been asked to consider layoffs of classified staff at tonight's meeting. CSEA opposes the layoff of any classified employees, and we believe the district should explore alternatives means of cutting costs, which do not include eliminating the staff that work so hard to serve our students and communities. CSEA respectfully requests that you do not approve tonight's layoff resolution. Thank you for the time. I know this has come late because you already voted, but if it can be.
We haven't voted on this item yet.
Oh, okay. So I will really appreciate if you can consider not to approve this resolution tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Connie, is it
Hamilton.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Well, I've started notes and then I've changed it several times. My concern is the students. How is it possible that there are going to be 6 brand new at the highest rate of pay with medical benefits when you're laying off the 3 lowest paid librarians, and we did not ask for the same rate as the LMATs. We asked to be lower than them, but we wanted to be acknowledged that we did the same exact job that they're doing at our schools. And I have been doing this for 11 years. I started at Haas. I was there for 7 years while my children went to Haas. Then they closed Haas and I ended up at Clifford, and I love Clifford. I loved everybody at Haas, but they're a family to me, and I have relationships with all of the students at Clifford, and I'm concerned for them. I mean, I find joy in my job going to work every day. And you telling me that, oh yes, there's going to be a full-time librarian there in August when you haven't even been able to find a sub for the Hoover School Library who has this certificate. So how are you going to find 6 full-time employees for the libraries when there's 3 that are retiring and then 3 of us that are going to be laid off because we don't have the certificate, but yet Bev's been doing it for 10 years without their certificate. We purchase we choose the books for our libraries. We process all the books. We're not just sitting there checking in and out books. We have relationships with everybody at our school. It's how is that when you're looking for funding, why would you get rid of I don't even have medical, so I'm like on the discount employee plan here. I'm one of the least paid librarians because I don't even get the medical. I get that with my husband. So, I mean, when we're looking for money, how is that equitable? Or what was the word used? Cost efficient and equitable for us to we didn't need these certificates when we started, but my 11 years experience ought to be enough. I am loved. I love my job. I love the people that I work for. This is ridiculous. And it's really saddened. And what's the word I wanted to say? It's insulting. And what was that? And I'm devastated. I mean, what about the students? We're talking about mental health and counseling and COVID and all that they went through during that. And I have relationships. Bev has relationships with these kids, and we're just going to throw that away.
Thank you,
Okay.
Connie. Your time is
I
up.
know, I didn't know. I thought that was somebody's phone. Okay, now is it Bev's turn?
Yes.
And I'm on the left.
Good evening. My name is Beverly Aguilar, and I'm the librarian at Garfield School. This is my fellow colleague, librarian, Miss Connie Hamilton from Clifford School. We are here to speak on behalf of our library media assistant group as our positions are being eliminated at the end of the school year. We do not understand why our positions are being eliminated as school libraries still need librarians for our students. Our schools are not closing. Our student population numbers may change, and therefore, we would understand that there would be a reduction in hours for our sites. We were recently informed through email this Monday that our positions were being eliminated due to lack of work and/or lack of funds. Then yesterday, Tuesday, we were again informed through another email that our positions were being eliminated because the district wants to provide equitable services for all school sites and have LMTA positions in the future. This was never mentioned to our group before until now. There are two classifications for librarians in our district, the Library Media Technical Associate, LMTA at 25.5, and our group, the Library Media Assistant, LMA at 19.5. Our job descriptions are very outdated for both classifications. The LMA since 2000, making it 23 years. The LMTA since 2004, making it 19 years. This past October, our group applied to do a reclassification since we all do the same duties except for having the certificate. We had the support of the district librarian, Beth Berlin Stevens, and the support of my principal, Ms. Lupe Torres Khalil. There are 3 of us in this group. Our fellow colleague is on leave. We were informed through email from Erin Kekos, Director of Human Resources, this past December 6th, that after analysis of our request, the committee would be recommending to the superintendent that our positions be reclassified from 19.5 to the pay grade of 23.5. This feels unjust for our group that applied for the reclassification and that it was recommended to be approved, and now our positions are being eliminated. We understand if the district has a different vision for libraries in the future and that there are 3 librarians retiring at the end of this school year. If our positions are eliminated, it would be a total of 6 schools' libraries to be filled, and/or for the remaining librarians to co-share all 11 libraries, which will not be an easy task and is not only not fair to them for their well-being, but also not fair to all the school communities that they will have to serve. We have been loyal and faithful employees to the Redwood City School District with a combined 30 years of experience between the 3 of us. We have worked with our school communities. 2 of us are bilingual. We see classes on a weekly basis, and we have worked on building and making our library collections better for our schools. Connie and I have also received excellent evaluations. We respectfully ask that you please consider not eliminating our positions and to give us the opportunity to continue to work and serve our school communities. Thank you for your time and attention to this matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Comments from the board? Or Lisa, if you have any comments?
And maybe Wendy,
clarify? I was just a little confused when they were talking about 6 positions. Can you explain that, please?
So there are 11 libraries in our district. And for a total of 11 librarians, 3 are retiring. 3 LMTAs are retiring. So that notice came in early February. And then we have 3 LMAs. And then the remainder are LMTAs. So 6. So the way it would, what would happen is we would fly the positions of the LMTAs that are retiring, right? Like we would any year for anyone retiring. And then after negotiating with CSEA, the effects of the layoff, we would decide what our next step is to fill those vacancies moving forward. So the remaining 3. So Beth Berlin-Stevens, our teacher librarian, is also an instructor at the City College, in which the LMTA certificate is available to be sought. And I spoke with her earlier regarding filling vacancies, and she's feeling pretty confident that we can get the LMTA's positions filled for next year.
And when you mean by fill those positions, is that from outside people or from?
So certainly for the individuals that are retiring, yes, because we need to fill vacancies for people leaving us. So that would be 3 LMTA new hires. And then after the result of our negotiations with CSEA tomorrow, I will know which positions I'm flying for 24-25. And if there's an alteration to the recommendation of the layoff as a result of CSEA negotiations, I will need to bring that back to the board by May 15th. So should in the course of negotiating with CSEA, I'm just gonna give you a hypothetical because we haven't entered into this yet. But let's say, for example, we negotiate with CSEA and at the effects of the layoff. And one of the items is that, hypothetically, we extend the layoff for a year and say, please go and get the certification that's 18 units, for example, or 2 years or whatever it is. If the board takes action tonight to lay off, there is another timeline in Ed Code, which is May 15th. So at the May 8th board meeting, I would need to bring back a finalized MOU with CSEA that alters the projection of what this layoff would be. So for example, if we kept the LMAs intact for next school year with this caveat in place about seeking the LMTA certification, then that would actually void the layoff from the board. So the board would then have to re-vote to adopt that change that came as a result of the negotiation. And that's why it's a little premature, but we once again have this May 15th deadline. And if we don't lay off, we don't negotiate with CSEA, because you negotiate the effects of a layoff. So I hope that makes sense. It's quite a complicated process, but that's why that moment in time has to happen right now. In a perfect world, we would have done this months and months and months ago and hopefully have led up to this process. But, out of all of our work that we've been doing with equity and so forth, it was a timely fashion. So that's why we're here where we are. But we do have that secondary date of May.
Do you mind if I say something on this?
Go ahead.
Can you hear me okay? Yeah, so I asked this very question when I saw this, and maybe in layperson's terms, because I'm not an HR director and I'm not involved in the negotiations, we eventually see what comes out of negotiations, and that there's usually a recommendation there's always a recommendation that comes to the board to approve. So, because one of the things, of course, I was concerned about is we do have 3 incredible librarians at the schools, and thank you, Bev and Connie, for speaking tonight. And certainly we value you and the wonderful relationships that you have with your students and the services that you provide. I mean, it's clear that you love what you do. And certainly I know that I value you as well as everyone else. So my understanding is, again, this is sort of this crazy process that education has per education code. If we were in a private business or in some other realm, we wouldn't have to do it this way. We could do it in a much more humane fashion, but we have these ridiculous deadlines, these ridiculous sort of rules in place. And then we also have collective bargaining, which is really important. And I know that our staff, value that, as do we. So the way this works, this is my understanding, and I think this is what Wendy just said, is that if we approve the layoffs tonight, then that allows for the negotiation of the effect of the layoffs. And part of that could come out that those individuals are able to continue in those positions for a year or 2 years, whatever comes out of the negotiations, as they work towards getting the LTMA. Because I will say, what's hard is that going back many years ago, we've been having conversations all along about the certification, the requirements that we want our librarians to have. And so we've been putting it off in some regards year over year. And so I think the recommendation tonight is that we actually move forward and do this. And so I do realize it's really hard, and it's also, I apologize, just on behalf of the district, it does sound like communication was not as good as it could have been. And I apologize for that, just for, my role and whatever that might be. But I do want to say we value you, and I do think that the process would allow for us to come up with a plan that could work. But that all has to be done in negotiations. And again, I'm not part of that. I'm not the HR director, but I would look forward to recommendations that could allow us to do some of that.
Thank you, Elisa. I would agree. When the district meets with CSEA to discuss all the layoffs in advance of March 6th tonight, the district has a responsibility to notify staff, believe it or not, after the decision's made. So that's not really the humane process, but that's what the law says, is that there's this series of notifications that have to be done. And so between, administrators and HR, and assumingly through CSEA, that process seemed like it rolled out in a bumpy sort of fashion, which I'll go back and review. But thank you for that. I appreciate those words and those sentiments.
And I just do have a comment and kind of a question. When they spoke about the miscommunication with classified employees or the librarians at this point, they talked about getting a notification on a Monday, and I forget, there was 2 different dates. And I'm just wondering, in fact, whether that is true, what happened as far as, was it a hiccup in HR? Because again, I do want to make you guys aware, I am a classified employee myself, so I totally understand that. And there may be times when obviously we're all human and make mistakes, but I just want to make sure that whether that did happen, and I don't, mean it in a bad way, but if we could just be careful, because again, and I do want to say, not on a personal level, but a lot of classified employees may feel that districts cater to certificated staff more than they do to classified staff. And so I do know that our district is very, again, transparent, and have always said that there is no, what's the word I want to use? Like difference. And so I just want to make sure that what we're saying is that what we are doing. So I want to just make sure that, things are clear, that communication, and again, going back to communication, and I said it before, I think we do a great job. So I just want to make sure that, again, classified staff are being, I can't even think. I don't want to say like respected, because I know that they are respected, but that we make sure that we communicate, in other words, I guess. So question, comment, because I was saying like, it was a question as to what happened, and then a comment, based on classified employees.
So I believe I just answered that for Lisa. Did you want me to expand further? I think I just answered that question for you. Do you want me to expand further on that?
I guess so, because I guess I didn't understand like
Okay.
what actually happened.
So last week we met with CSEA to explain all the positions. And then we spoke with site administrators about the librarian specifically in this case. And then on Monday, my office reached out to the librarians, although it's not required to do that until tomorrow. That's what happened. So that is by EDCO that it's required. So I want to go back and unpack and find out, what could have been done better in that regard. But that is what I know to be true that occurred.
That's fine. And I appreciate again the clarification, because again, we want to be transparent and, for everyone to understand what happened. And if there was a mistake, that perhaps could be corrected in the future. So thank you. And I appreciate what you guys do, you and your team, of course, but again, thank you very much.
Thank you, Anna, for speaking, and Bev and Connie for coming and talking. It's clear that you have passion for the roles and the positions that you're in. And Wendy, thank you for walking through the how of the decision-making process around this stuff. Which ones were coming out of one-time funding, which ones are being right-sized because of reduction of funding, and then this role change that we're talking about, rightfully so, the job description change. What it sounds like to me is that we're at the beginning of a process and we have partial information here, and that this step is going to begin the process for figuring out what is the right way to navigate through both the position, the circles in one part of your slide, and the people, the pictures of humans in real life, that's happening on the other side. And so I'm looking forward to hearing how that pursuit has, how that progresses over the next month or two. And I'm sure we'll continue to get updates on it. And so with all of that information, I'll support this resolution too. Thanks.
You good? Okay. I don't really have anything more to add. I recognize, Wendy, that you need to go into negotiations. It feels like such a backward process, but it's the law. I look forward to seeing what comes out of that. It's my hope that the current LMAs would be able to keep their positions and pursue the certificate needed for the LMTA. So I'm hoping to see that come forward, but I'm not in control of that. So
one other thing, I just wanted to I think we had said this during the certificated discussion, but I wanted to just double check. Did you say that there is something you're looking into for some of the mental health counselors? I think okay. So that'll happen there. Okay, great. Okay. All right, thanks.
we do need a motion on this item.
Again, without enthusiasm, I'm going to move to approve this.
Is there a second?
I will second that.
A roll call vote, please.
Trustee Marquez,
Aye.
trustee Weekly. Trustee McAvoy,
Aye.
Vice President Wells,
Aye.
President Lawson.
Aye. 7.4, adoption of resolution number 9.
So this particular resolution is the document needed through EdCode, once again, for the release and reassignment of certificated specifically administrators. And so we are reducing assistant principal support throughout our districts and throughout our district. And so this particular resolution addresses that. The individuals affected have already been placed in other positions.
Any questions or comments on this? None? Okay.
I mean, I'm grateful that they've been placed already and that that's at least been worked out there. So with that, unless Lisa or you have something to say, I can go ahead and make a motion to approve.
Lisa, did you, no comments? Okay.
Seconded.
Roll call vote?
Trustee Marquez?
Aye.
Trustee Weekly?
Aye.
Trustee McAvoy?
Aye.
Vice President Wells?
Aye.
President Lawson?
Aye. 7.5, approval of release of temporary teachers.
This resolution actually comes to the board each year. There's a handful of temporary teachers in which we write temporary contracts for, and those are for usually grant-funded situations in which the grants or sometimes PTO or what have you, funding is not secure at this moment in time. So they may not come back, or they may come back, and we typically find out in the April time session. The good news is that many of these individuals can choose from other positions, and we write them a probationary contract, which is a different pathway. So this is usually a strict result to just soft monies that come in. And their contracts already have an end date that were written in August, so they know this, but this is a customary practice.
Yeah, I'll say this is one that I have been through before in the past years, even when we had the additional one-time funding. So hopefully we can continue to offer if the valuable services, but.
So this sounds procedural, yeah, versus some of the other things that are cuts. Correct? Yeah. Okay.
Is there a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Marquez?
Aye.
Trustee Weekly?
Aye.
Trustee McAvoy?
Aye.
Vice President Wells?
Aye.
President Lawson?
Aye. Thank you for that. We're going to circle back to item 7.1 that we moved, the feasibility study.
So this item here is a feasibility study for a parcel. This item here is the feasibility study for a parcel tax measure to be placed, on the November 24 ballot. But we need to get information from the community before we even go forward. There were people that spoke here this evening and support, and I'm sure there's others that have a difference of opinion in regard to us moving forward. But this is not saying that we are going for a parcel tax. We are doing a feasibility study. That if everything goes in the manner that we would hope, then a resolution would come back to you before the last meeting in June to move forward. Or prior to that, when we get the results of it, no, we will have that information too. And previously, we had one of the members, we had Ms. Coomer on here from Team Civex, but she had to leave because she has an early plane catch tomorrow. Questions?
We do have one speaker. Public comment on this. Chris Rebel. Okay, go ahead, Chris. You can unmute.
Yes, good evening. One of the things I think that's very important if you're contemplating a parcel tax, which of course is for people, and as one of you said earlier, I think David Weekly, bonds are for buildings, parcel taxes are for people. You have done a $298 million bond, which will cost taxpayers more than double that with Measure S and then Measure T before that, hundreds of millions for that. And there's a plan to do another bond that, there's at least 3 phases, right? So in some, I don't know if it's a year from now, 2 years from now. So I think the key point is that's lacking here is prioritization, right? The residents in the community don't have unlimited funds, right? And so if you're asking for more money from the community for the schools, the question I think is it more important to spend more money on people and these jobs and teachers, or is it more important to spend more on spiffy looking buildings? And I think most people would agree that money for a parcel tax for teachers is more important than the buildings, the bonds. So I think it would behoove everybody to, and I think it would be to be transparent with the community. Are you still planning on doing another bond after this as well? So you're going for a parcel tax and a bond for more buildings, even though enrollment's down? It's a prioritization question, and I think it's something very, very important as you're trying to be thoughtful about the ask of the community. And I know this is something that somebody else brought up with Measure S as well. They're like, please, we can only afford so much. And it's also worth noting there are a lot of other taxes, which I'm sure your consultant will point out. There's a state housing bond, there's a state transportation bond, there's a multi-county MTC BAFA regional housing bond. The city has money, so they're looking at a property transfer tax and a business license revamp. There's so many taxes on November, and you're now adding another one to it. So how much money do we want to be extracting from people that live in our community? And I don't think another bond down the pike. I think it's important to share that if that's your intent, in addition to this parcel tax. Thank you.
Thanks. Questions or comments from the board? This item?
I think we had a robust discussion on this last week. So I don't have much more to comment other than I do think we should go forward with the feasibility study. I think that, if it were to pass, a parcel tax could make meaningful difference for many of the programs that had been funded previously through one-time funds that would be wonderful to put in. It's an expensive area to live. People are very important, and being able to pay for the salaries to be able to offer the kind of service that we want is critical. So yeah, I'll just leave it at that.
Is it worth $53,000 for us to explore whether the voters are interested in having higher quality education for the students of our district? There are difficult questions that come in front of the board, and we've had many of them, and this isn't one of them. So yeah, I absolutely think we should explore this and find ways to fund our district and the education that we deliver our students.
Elisa or Cecilia, anything?
I don't have any comments.
Okay. Elisa, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I made a lot of comments at the last meeting, and I think we heard eloquently from a lot of speakers tonight for the need for the parcel tax. So I agree with my colleagues and the recommendation that we should move forward with the feasibility study to find out if our community agrees.
Yeah, I agree with my colleagues. I think given everything that we just talked about tonight, there's a need and we need to see if the community would support that.
I would like to make a motion to approve.
Let's go find out. Seconded.
Thank you. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Marcus?
Aye.
Trustee Wheatley?
Aye.
Trustee McAvoy?
Aye.
Vice President Wells?
Aye.
President Lawson?
Aye. Great. 8.1, report from board members and superintendent. Does anybody have anything to report out on?
I attended the Kennedy Black History Month Assembly that they had last week, which was awesome. Antonio Perez was there with me. Mrs. Leonardo welcomed everyone. There was a choir from New Beginnings Community Church. A professor from San Mateo Community College covered the roots of hip hop and some of the history there. There was a drummer of ethnic studies professor that had a drum group there that performed. The Kennedy Jazz Band performed, and they are awesome in terms of music and support that was there. And it ended with the spoken word. It ended with the jazz band, but before them, there was a spoken word performance by Ms. Chillin, who was also giving away free giveaways, which was a big hit in the audience. I think it was T-shirts. It felt a little bit like a sporting event, but it was a lot of fun. So it was a great assembly. I enjoyed being there. Oh, and there were student presentations too. A couple of students had done research and presentation on historical figures, and one read a poem. So it was great.
I didn't have a lot in the last week, but I've got actually 2 upcoming meetings this week. One with a representative of the dental Alliance to talk about like what are best practices for dental care for our students, just to make sure that we are adhering to best practices there. And then another on Friday, meeting with Dr. Geiser from Stanford's Gardner Center about our community schools and our strategy there.
I did that.
I need to schedule that stuff.
And I attended along with Dr. Baker and oh my God, Ms. Rivera.
Ms. Rivera
And the
and
nurses.
nurses.
Katrina read the Spanish Superintendent Advisory Council for.
Elisa, do you have any report?
I do. I have mostly been involved with CSBA meetings this last couple of weeks. Finance committee, bylaws committee, and then workforce housing conversations that are going on there. By the way, there was just a lot of interest in workforce housing up and down the state, hundreds of school districts interested in that. So there's a lot of support that CSBA is providing in that arena. And then finally, I wanted to mention that next week is CSBA's, California School Boards Association, I should say for the audience, their legislative action week. So that's where we meet with the state legislators and talk about priorities. And of course, I will be bringing up funding. So we have a lot of good examples of how they've sort of given money and taken money away and the real effects of it. So I will be able to speak to what's going on in our district as an example, and hopefully we'll get some movement from our state legislators. Thank you.
I do not have any reports.
Superintendent's advisory that we did on Friday.
And then I guess just another comment to add to the Spanish Superintendent Advisory meeting is kudos to Michelle and the team, right? Because one of the parents actually said how grateful she was for her to actually help her navigate and help her feel welcome and explain to her everything, how things happen in their district. So I do want to say, there's a lot of people that work behind the scenes and we really don't see it and hear it often. So just want to point that out.
Information on San Mateo County Investment Fund.
4%. I know. I was kind of surprised. I mean, I guess I'm not surprised, but that's good news.
Correspondence. So we've received lots of emails about this evening. I mentioned that I received the county's review of our first interim budget. I forwarded it to all board members this evening, so you can read it for yourself. Any other correspondence?
Extensive but covered.
Yes. Possible other business suggested items for future agenda.
Yeah. I want, yeah. I'm thinking it was, I had two things that I wanted to propose, that we do a covering of, bring to a future agenda, future meeting, updates on the solar program that we discussed last December, and an update on the progress towards our phase 2 plans and what's happening there, which I think has probably not been discussed since maybe August or so, specifically.
Right, and we need to, we need to have them come back.
Yeah, so great.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I'll sit down with Janet and come up with.
Thank you.
I'm hoping one of the outputs of my meeting with the dental group is a set of recommendations that then can be presented for the district. We'll see, but like, that's my hope.
And that's tomorrow, right?
Yeah. Yep. I don't know if that would be at the next board meeting, but some board meeting. There's also some higher level discussions about how the district is engaging with some of these best practices around mastery learning, peer tutoring, and spaced repetition. I've got some dialogue going on with Dr. Baker about it, about sort of on a long-term story arc, how we intersect those themes that are proven to be effective and that we may only be variably engaging today.
Thank you. Changes to the board meeting calendar. I don't think there's any. All right. It's not 10 o'clock yet. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone in the audience. There's a lot of people who stuck it out with us too.
Thank you, everybody online. You rock.
Teachers, principals, the principals are on here too.
Yeah,
So
I saw
great.
that. Mhm.